Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here on this Monday in Antwerp with another brew review, and today we are gonna talk about yet another Spanish beer. I still have some in my catalog. Today we're gonna talk about Rosa Blanca Hoppy Lager. Now you will notice that the can, or if you get one of these in your hands, you will notice that the can says Desde 1927 or since 1927. And yeah, actually, um, the story starts a bit earlier than that. These days, this beer is in fact distributed by Gruppo Damm, that we know from Volendam, Estrella Damm, and the likes. Um, and they took it over in 1998, but the story goes way back, and actually 1927 is not early enough, because Bartomeu Roca started a distillery in Palma de Mallorca in 1851, and it is right from the start that he started experimenting with beer as well. Now, of course, he didn't make this hoppy lager immediately, but he did, basically make low fermented beers like a lager, a pilsner, a bock, and he did so, behind closed doors, let's say. But in around 1890, he moved production to Santa Catalina, where he actually founded a real brewery, and he started making beer. And this desde 1927, or since 1927, actually states that the year that it got marketed. So in 1927 they started marketing their beer instead of just selling it locally. And they did so from Santa Catalina. Now there is a dream that they want to return to Palma de Mallorca, or to the island Mallorca, but right now the beer is being brewed in Barcelona in one of the breweries from Gruppo Damm. Now this is a restarted brand. It has been off the market for a while, and I can tell you that this is a slightly altered recipe. How can I say this? Well, they do follow a classic recipe, as in they brew this with malted barley, with corn, and with rice, but they also dry hop this. And you might argue that dry hopping isn't modern at all, and indeed it isn't. But back in those days, I'm afraid they didn't have citra hops, and this one is dry hopped with citra hops. Now, 1927 is also the year that they started using this white rose, the Rosa Blanca, as a logo. A nice gold bordered white rose. This is a modernized version of that logo, but still, as you guys know by now, I love this design. It's very simple. It has a nice flush baby blue background, the white circle, black lettering, nice evenly spaced, the golden rose, and some details in the same blue and gold as the background and the logo. So absolutely love this. A bit of extras in the back. Basically this just states the ingredients. So yeah, I am very curious for this taste. All that's left for me to say is that this is a 4.8% lager, so a low fermented beer. And let's crack this baby open. I've been curious for this for quite a while now. Oh yeah, that's hoppy, all right. As you know, Citra is a widely used hop these days. The Duvel triple hop Citra, but a lot of IPAs as well. This is a lovely, extremely clear beer. Nice pale yellowish pale yellow lager. Some medium density white foam. I would call this white indeed. Lovely purling all the way up the glass. Yeah, I do get a lot of hops in there. That typical citra fragrance, and by that I mean a lot of lemon zest. It's like um, actually maybe a lemon zest confit, because it's very bitter, citrusy, and sweet at the same time. And Citra does have that characteristic of being rather aggressive in smell and in taste, rather dominant, but also very refreshing. So I would say this is a summer beer. So yeah, right on the spot here. Oh my, that's good. It is indeed a very, very light beer. Um, Again, an easily digestible beer because brewed with rice and corn, and the malted barley is, of course, the main ingredient. Um, but actually, switching out part of the grain bill with corn or maize and rice is always a good idea. Makes your beer lighter in color as well as in digestibility. But even though it's a very light beer, like I said, 4.8% ABV, um, it's not too thin in the mouth. It is very nicely carbonated, so it's not flat or anything. Um, and I am afraid that this is extremely drinkable. Um, so, in that way, it does help that it's under 5% ABV. Nonetheless, yeah, it's still beer, of course, so yeah, be responsible with that. But yeah, absolutely lovely beer. The smells of the hop are more present than the taste. So they have been careful with that. And as I said, Citra is a very dominant flavor. Um, so that might have been a very wise decision. I like Citra, but I don't like when it's too aggressive. So I think this is a very balanced beer, and I'm very, very pleasantly surprised with the quality and the complexity of this beer actually. Yeah, I think again, um, this is a great replacement for your average Pilsner beer. Um, it is dry hopped. Actually, this reminds me of Super Cadix by Antwerp Brewing Company, which is also a dry hopped lager. And for some reason, I seem to love those. Um, you can't call it an IPA. Well, for starters, it's not an ale, so scratch the A. Has nothing to do with India. Scratch the I. So you're left with a P. So it's a pale. No, I'm just kidding, of course. But yeah, these are just dry hop lagers, um, and I'm really digging that. And one of the characteristics of a lager is that it's lagered in very low temperature. Well, of course, all ales are lagered in low temperature as well. But here, the dry hopping occurs between like 1 and 2 degrees centigrade, while dry hopping in an ale oftentimes is done during the end step of the fermentation process, so around 20 22 degrees. And then during the cooling, the hops are already in there. So here there is only dry hopping after it's been cooled to that 1 or 2 degrees. Although I do see oftentimes, these days, um, ales being dry hopped in the lagering step as well, but that's a whole other story. Okay, let's wrap things up. As far as lagers go, And lagers are still like about 90% of the beer sold in the world. And Belgium about 70% with, well, we do have a lot of craft beers and a lot of Abbey beers and such. But nonetheless, I do believe that in that segment, if you do well within that group, even a tiny market share of 90% is still quite a lot of beer. And for me, this beer actually stands out amongst those. So I would call this a 375. And as far as lagers go, that is a very high score, even for me. But yeah, well deserved. Like I said, lovely design. I kind of like the story, but that's not everything, of course. It is Gruppo Damm, so another large conglomerate. But yeah, lovely color, very drinkable, easily digestible, nice grain bill, citra hops, not too dominant, very thirst quenching. Actually haven't mentioned that yet, but it is extremely thirst quenching as well. So yeah, the perfect lager for hot weather, even better than the last two Spanish beers. And I do see a tendency within that Spanish market. So anywho, as usual, I'll see you guys in the next video. Yeah, let's call it Wednesday with another Belgian beer and a strong one this time. So yeah, cheers you guys.